Before we begin, thank you very much to Tora should have a Canadian accent for joining the Patreon campaign. So you know that joke that was in my outro credits for a long time, where we had to think of a quick replacement for the French, so we settled on elves. Yeah, that would make Tora and Elijah and a magic elf a French Canadian. No, I can't do accents. Tora will remain just sounding like me. But thank you very much. Thank you for the joke about our RPG game, which, by the way, we were playing tonight. If you're watching this video the day it goes up. Let's see. This is the monthly Q&A video. And as usual, you guys are insane. I have over 190 comments and questions to go through. As always, we will endeavor to go through all of them. If you want to leave me a question for the March 1st video, please leave them in the comment section below. Keep in mind the rules of this one. Please keep it to TOS friendly. Please only one question per person. That is a strict rule so we can get through as many people as possible. And make sure that it is a simple in and out question. Don't ask me anything that's gonna sit and make me like stall, because this video is probably gonna be at least an hour and a half as it is. Beyond that, there's little etiquette rules. You guys should know it by now. So let's get on and go with the questions. Are there any figures from 2012 forward, any release after Prime Arachnid, that you consider Plastic Addict worthy? I do think overall we've gone to a better place in Transformers. I do think there are still bad toys, but maybe not Plastic Addict bad. As a comment mentions, I have gotten requests for Earthrise RC multiple times. She has a decent enough vehicle mode for me to consider maybe not. But she is a potential. There's also ones I really think could have been done a lot better. The G.I. Joe crossover Transformers, for instance. But generally, like, we have, like, the scales have skewed. We definitely have more good figures than bad now. So it's harder to pick modern toys that deserve a masterpiece or a Plastic Addict treatment. I was thinking, like, the busted masterpiece toys. That's where my brain went. But no, it's very difficult to pick newer ones for that series. Plus, I got plenty of old ones I can still go through. Out of all the groups in Transformers, which do you believe is the most underrated? This is going to be. I mean, there's a few. Like, I've been doing research for the Mayhem Attack Squad recently. They really don't get enough to do. They really don't. They're supposed to be the Decepticon version of the Wreckers, but their stories are brief. But my real answer here is probably very biased of me, but the Technobots, because I feel like they're very different than standard combiners that are all kind of depicted as just like dumb hulking giants who just punch each other in combined mode. They were reduced to that in the Machinima series, and that was very unfortunate. But just being a super intelligent combiner and a very different style of combiner team, I really wish we'd see them more often. When are we going to get a proper Studio Series 86 Bumblebee? That's very difficult now, isn't it? I mean, you still have to get Volkswagen on board, which they have been more so in the past. You would think they would have done it by now. I'm not even sure why we haven't gotten the other one, outside of maybe, maybe the Netflix Bumblebee might have superseded it for a while. They can use that mold separately now. They can use it outside, like the exclusivity is expired, but we also deserve a better Bumblebee mold than that doesn't have a big shell-formy part to it, or a part-formy part to it. I would really like to see a better Bumblebee if we're doing 86. Why does Velocitron Road Hauler have such a shocked look on his face? No clue. They're just trying to do different expressions just so there's something different about the toy to appease collectors. That way they're not feeling like they're just buying like a flat repaint. Doesn't work because the toy ended up in Liquidators. But, they tried. It's at least different. Would you prefer Hasbro? Oh, this is the thing I always forget to mention. If you're just going to leave a comment, please mark it as a comment so I don't stop and start reading something that isn't a question. That also saves us time. See, would you prefer Hasbro keep going with collector-centric G1 nostalgia line or brand new series with completely original characters? We've gotten both, but I would really like their new series with completely original characters to get the same attention and budget as the line that's G1 focused. I mean, I'm really sick of having brand new characters and brand new stories being told, and the toys coming out for them are terrible because they're so focused on trying to come up with little gimmicky tricks for kids that the overall toy itself suffers. You know, or like having super simplified deluxes for, you know, that, okay, I understand are simple for kids to play with, but kids can, but we're, you know, like, there's nothing about a Generations toy that a kid can't play with. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. We have that now. They just don't give it the attention it deserves. Well, what do you think of a Tiny Titans line, like a series of Titan-like figures in much smaller scale, like Voyager? That way, figures who wouldn't normally get Titan size go still get plastic representation. The trick there is that it's not a line that you're looking for. What you're looking for is alternative versions of those characters. So Fortress Maximus and Scorponok in the Marvel comics are much smaller characters. You could have a Fort Max at leader class that was more comic book designed and comic book colored, and it would be correct. You could do a Voyager Scorponok, you know, that's, you know, about the same size as your standard Shockwave figure. And again, it would be correct if it is the Marvel version of those characters. You're not thinking like a Tiny Titan line, just alternate versions that could mesh well with the normal Generations. IDW, Fort Max, and Scorponok would also work well for that. They were about normal size. And I would love that. I don't think they need smaller scale play sets. I think the vehicle modes just need a higher focus if you're doing it that way. But no, you know how long I've been wanting just like a Voyager size Scorponok that's just like nice desktop size. I've got Iron Scorpion from I've got Lord Scorpion from Iron Factory. He scratches an itch, but not completely. If Hasbro decided to make an animated Headmaster, do you think a core figure that transforms into some weird alt mode would be better to represent the character, or some kind of deluxe set with retooled figure of any kind of animated characters with a Headmaster? I definitely think it would be better as a core if it just worked like a normal Headmaster and it had a robot mode. But there are just certain figures that it could, close down on the head. The trick is, on its own, turning into a head doesn't really accomplish much, and there's only so many figures that it would be compatible with. Getting that thing to clamp down securely onto a lot of those toys would be difficult. Keep in mind, that head and a lot of the characters were designed in such a way that it would work. Not necessarily true of modern toys. It would probably, if you wanted just to function better, then yeah, throw it in with a leader class bulkhead or something. But it's a hard call there. It's a hard call there. I said core, and then the more I thought about it, the more I realized it just needs to be packed in with like a leader or commander class animated figure, something that it's designed to work with. A lot of talk about combiners in this, and got me thinking about the Rust Renegades. What would you like to see the team come back deco-wise? Netflix did a really good job with the Sparkle Soldiers for a Rust deco, but the Rust Renegades weren't always rusty. Maybe? See, the thing is, they, of course, as characters, would have color schemes previous to being so rusted down, but that loses their identity. I would rather them stay rusty and just kind of be like either like zombified or just really war-torn characters that are just banded together. And it gives a unique aesthetic, I think I'd prefer just like a heavy rusted deco to them. Looks cool too. Like, I actually think some of the paint jobs on those Netflix figures were actually pretty good. Let's see, what would your thoughts be on a possible set of Titan class figures for the Beast Wars ships? I mean, I would love that. The dark side would kind of be difficult with its design, because it's designed like a Triton, which doesn't give you a whole lot to work with for a robot mode. But the Axalon absolutely would work. I would love to see an Axalon done, and Then you got plenty of accessories you can do there. You can do like little stasis pod accessories that can be stored inside. You can have like little mini, maximal characters and an elevator that works. Lots of fun stuff. There's a lot of potential to an Axalon figure. And if we can get away with the Nemesis and the Ark, why not the Axalon? Do you think Hasbro will repaint Rise of the Beast mainline figures in Beast Wars colors? You say this as I have one right here. My Air Razor, one of my toys of the year. I love this thing. I don't necessarily think so. It seems like those toys are one and done. I would love for them to come back. I would love for them to give them another go, make them more available. It's kind of rough going because they are a weird size. They can't just shunt them into a current toy line because the engineering level on them is a little bit different than a standard deluxe. Keep in mind, these were kind of meant to be like a one-year replacement for Cyberverse, blending into Earthspark, and then everything got backed up a year, so it didn't get to do that. So to do like Bumblebee or Wheeljack or Air Razor at retail, you'd have to shunt them into Earthspark Deluxes, which if you incorporate them into Season 2, that'd be a clever way to do it. But most likely not. Just because a lot of those like low-end figures don't tend to get repaints. Since we got Bulkhead in the first wave, when do you think we'll get Legacy Prime Breakdown? He's probably low on the priority list, if I'm going to say. I'd like Knockout to have a better attempt first than just a retooled Jazz. That would be nice. We still have most of the main cast that has to be done. We don't have Ratchet. We don't have, Bumblebee. We don't even have a Bumblebee from Prime. Don't have a new Starscream. Don't have a Megatron. There's a ton of places to go before we get to Breakdown. So it's probably going to be like, I don't know, because a lot of those primes didn't go over very well. RC and Bulkhead did not go over well, so I don't even know if they'd even go that route for like the next whatever follows after Legacy. Let's see, who is a TF character you want to see return in a main new cartoon, but would need to majorly redesigned to be implemented, made into toys for a modern kids line? There's a lot. There's a lot that have dated designs. There's a lot that would need like major revisions in order to work in a modern sense. Offhand, nothing really like springs to mind. It's just general rule in Transformers. You're dealing with like a major cast of characters that are all from the 80s. So to make them appeal to kids in the 20s here, you kind of need something new and fresh about them. Most of them need some kind of refreshment. Devastator and Rail Racer, yeah. Devastator you could probably get away with. There's, construction vehicles don't really change much. When I think of ones that need, like, upgrades, I think, like, Trailbreaker. Like, I'd love to see Trailbreaker get another run, but, the old Toyota Hilux he turns into is a very dated truck, and like the camper bed is not a thing that trucks have anymore, so you'd have to redesign them pretty well to work as a modern pickup truck. Let's see, why do you think the Skyboom shield is not utilized as the Star Saber or the Requiem Blaster? I would argue like we don't even really see the Requiem Blaster. For the Skyboom shield, I think it's just because the shield's more boring. Like you hold up a shield, you stop attacks from coming in. It's not as adventurous as a gigantic cannon or a huge glowing sword. So that's probably why we do not see them. I didn't even see like the Star Saber itself in various forms we get often, but even the Requiem Blaster I think is a very rare one. Thoughts on a wild idea I have. What if there was a Transformers with a rotating head gimmick like animated Blitzwing, but instead of 3 faces, it has 5. Basically a Quintesson that can actually transform, and the robot had like 5 different alt modes it could turn into. You're asking for a lot. You are asking for so much there. Keep in mind, you are essentially, like, if you're asking for 5 alt modes, you're also making sure that robot mode is separate, so each face can turn into a different vehicle. You're asking for an RID Megatron, which is an incredibly complex figure. If they did a modern one, it would have to be Commander class. In fact, if the HasLab does well, I'm expecting one as next year's Commander class. No, the idea is fun, but it's way, way overcomplicated. Even getting a gimmick that was large enough for 5 heads to rotate through, even that would be very difficult to do and make space for and still make it transform. Because keep in mind, nothing could transform around that head. The gimmick of rotating the faces around would completely wreck that. You just can't do it. You can't do it. Let's see, would you consider the Fusors be the Beast Wars equivalent to the Triple Changers? In a sense, I always feel like Fusors are what happens if, like, a Triple Changer's alt modes got mixed. Like, I feel like Beast Wars, I feel like in canon, those stasis pods for Quick Strike and Silverbolt were Triple Changers, but because of the corruption that went on, they got one mixed alt mode rather than 2. I feel like that's I think that's where it lies. Better Mega Man villain, Dr. Wily or Sigma? Absolutely Sigma. I mean, they both have the same success and failure rate, but Sigma did successfully do enormous damage to the Earth. He is, like, his goals are far more dangerous. Wily wants world domination. Sigma wants world destruction. And Sigma's more capable of it. He has been shown to be far more powerful than Wily in just coming up with robots and skull-shaped vehicles to drive. So, no, it's Sigma. Definitely Sigma. If you could design your own Beast Wars mutant, what would the 2 beast modes be? Interesting. You see, the beast mode, the beast modes they picked, I think, are actually pretty decent. I mean, for me, I'd want some kind of turtle in there because it's just, like, I like turtles. You know, old internet meme, I like turtles. But what to turn it into is difficult. You'd want it to be something different. Like, you definitely want it to stand out. Like if it's going to be a turtle in one mode, then the alt mode's got to be something different. But what can you transform that turtle shell into? Well, if you turn it inside out, you could probably turn it into just about anything toy-wise. Like what if the shell just, like, opens up and, like, turns inside out and you get, like, a squid out of it? Like, I don't know if a squid would necessarily be my pick, but it's an option. I don't know what the other one would be. That one I would have to think about. Definitely a turtle at least, just so I could have more turtles. Multi-Force versus Power Link. Which one wins the race into Plastic Addict episode? Neither. They are both really good gimmicks. Keep in mind, Multi-Force are G1 toys. The fact that they all had an upper body and a lower body mode and unique heads for both of those modes, that's pretty impressive. And they combine. And they're a combiner. That's a lot of engineering going on in an old toy. That is an accomplishment. That toy is a triumph. And Power Links, like Energon Power Links, are just fun. Like, it's just fun to swap and mix and match them. Yeah, they ended up being bricks most of the time, but that wasn't the point. The point was to come up with your own looking big giant robot dude. No, they're both fun. Let's see. If Legacy were to do one more Rescue Bots character, which do you think would be most likely in your personal opinion? New mold or retool? I don't know Rescue Bots very well. So that is a difficult one. I mean, you've got Quick Shadow. That Quick Shadow's a pretty basic car design when all things are said and done. We got plenty of Transformers that could be replicated into. Personally, I like Whirl from Academy. I really like her design, so I'd really like to see that. You might be able to retool it from a Windblade to redo those wings into VTOLs. That's about the only place my brain really goes with that one. Like, I like Girl Whirl. I'd love to see that one. Let's see. Question, do you think Disney would ever allow Has-Tech engineers to make a Masterpiece-style Wall-E? A couple transforming ones, but never quite get the shape of the treads right or the articulation. Maybe not necessarily. I mean, it'd be fun. I'd love for them to do it. Wall-E, I would call my favorite movie. I'm not sure necessarily if Hasbro would be the right one to do it. I feel like it should be doable. They just don't ask the right companies. Hasbro would have a better be more likely to do it though. And Hasbro and Disney have worked together at times. I can't remember if they currently have the Princess license or not, but you know they've got the Marvel, so the window of opportunities there. With the Walmart reassurance lines, reissue lines of G1 and Beast Wars. What other Transformers show or toy line would you think or like to see get the reissue treatment? See, as much as I hate to admit it, if we're doing any other reissues, the most likely one out of the gate is going to be Armada. Not only has it hit the nostalgia point as far as how old the series is, like the nostalgia point is when the kids who grew up with it are adults and generally have kids of their own that they want to show what they grew up with. So that's where your nostalgia lies. You know, the people who are hitting that point where they want to recapture what they had as a kid. Armada's hitting that point. And it is a landmark series because it did rejuvenate the franchise greatly. I don't think we're there for a movie, and I think they'd rather just redo studio series that are more accurate to the screen. So I think Armada would be the next one to go. I would do Cybertron, but that's me being selfish. How likely do you think we'll get tidal wave redecos, and if we do, which color schemes? That's a fun one because we do have two really good options. I do think because we do get Generation Selects Titans once in a while. We got the Sentinel robot for Omega out of Omega Supreme, so it is entirely possible. My gut instinct is the Energon release because that's how he appeared in toy and in cartoon. A lower end. The toy accurate, there is some nostalgia for that because people had the toy growing up, but I don't necessarily think that one is going to be quite as interesting because it's only the toy, not the cartoon. I think both are likely, but I only think we're going to get one or the other. I just don't know which one it's going to be. Let's see. TJ is the GOAT chain. I don't know if I'm the GOAT, but I appreciate the sentiment. I appreciate the emoji. Why haven't they used Earthrise Seeker mold for Sunstorm yet? Because they don't want to use because they don't want to give like Earthrise Seeker. Oh, okay, never mind. I read that as Earthspark. I'm never gonna not get those two backwards. Because they kind of did something like that. So, I generally don't know. Sunstorm is always weird. It seems like whenever they approach doing Sunstorm, they either get the deco enormously wrong, or there's some weird dispute with Takara about doing Sunstorm. I'm not sure why. It's one of the very few repaints that Seeker Mold hasn't done. I'm still waiting for G2 Thundercracker or Action Master Thundercracker. I don't know why we haven't seen Sunstorm yet. It's weird. We kind of got a yellow one in the Seeker, the Siege Seeker 3-pack. That's about as close as I think we're gonna get for a while. Will Hasbro can bring Optimal Megatron in the future? I have. Okay. I think you mean okay. I know what you mean. You mean the Beast Machines like final battle Megatron. I feel like if the Beast Wars toys continue to go well, and if they finally figure out how they want to handle Transmetals, I definitely feel like we're going to get a new Optimal Optimus at the Commander scale. If they do, they would be foolish not to include an alternate face that makes him into Beast Machine's Megatron. That is a very obvious thing to do. Yeah. I mean, I can absolutely see that. How would you feel about a Transformers crossover where it's established Transformers characters taking on the iconic vehicles of another IP as vehicle modes rather than the original characters or mech versions of the characters for that IP? So Starscream and the Seekers turning into TIE Fighters. I mean, in some ways it would make sense for them to actually be those characters, and sometimes it would not. I wouldn't, let's put it this way. I wouldn't want to do it for one-off characters. I'm okay with the G.I. Joe crossovers doing it because we're getting a bunch of them. I'm not okay, however, with like one Back to the Future is like side swipe, you know, or we do like the Ghostbusters van is like Ironhide or whatever. It's not a van, it's a hearse, I know. I don't think that works so much. I would rather those be original characters so they could do new things with them rather than just kind of stick with like, because, you know, wedging a character from G1 into designs as unique as like the Ecto 1 or the DeLorean isn't going to work. You know, you're gonna do what happened with the G.I. Joe Transformers, where you have, you know, a very poor representation of the character that really should be better. So I think it's better to make them original characters. If Bumblebee ever became a Prime, what should he be called? That's always the difficult one, because like Bumble Prime, Bumblemus Prime, like none of that sounds good. None of that works. I'd almost like him to be like, I think you either swap out the Bumblebee part for like a Hornet or something. So like Hornet Prime, you know, or something weird like that. Even that sounds weird. What you need to do is upgrade Bumblebee to Goldbug first and then make him Goldimus Prime. That's about the only logical way I can see of getting from Bumblebee to him being a Prime, is to have that stopgap that we could that comes up with a better, you know, better sounding name. That's about as close as I could get. See, if you could choose any Autobot or Decepticon as a tag team partner, who would you choose? It's a difficulty. I'm not going to choose any Decepticon because I have to be able to trust a tag team partner. You know, a tag team partner, we need a good 1.5 year run before they turn on me. Decepticon will do it in the first match. Man, but who would be a good one? Who would be like a really good choice for like because it's got to be someone loyal. It's got to be someone really good. It's got to have some. It's got to be someone really good. You know, at a wrestling match, I'm like maybe Braun, because like Braun, super strong. You know, that seems to work. Also, he's closer to human size, so it wouldn't feel like too unfair. I feel like I could pick. Oh yeah, let's pick Omega Supreme. That'll win a match pretty easily. Yeah, I don't know how he'd get up at the turnbuckle for the tag without crushing most people in the first 7 rows, but it's, you know. So let's go with that. Do you think the low sale of Micromasters from Siege and Earthrise are the reason why we barely get any minicons from Armada and Legacy? That is potentially it, but I think it really just comes from how expensive the toys are to do these days, and coming up with a completely separate transforming figure that's packed in. I think that just hurts it, and there's no real independent way of doing minicons because they're too small to do as core class figures. I really do think it's hard to work them in. I think it's just as simple as that. I don't think it's necessarily Micromasters selling so badly that's causing it to fail. I think those failed badly because they're all very similar and they're not really interesting toys. You know, minicons are a little bit different. The minicon Jolt that came with Power Link's Hot Shot, he was really good. You know. Let's see. I just think it's I really do think it's just, you know, just a lack of budget, and just the deluxe, you know, the toys themselves are just expensive enough without having to work in a secondary figure that's like half a core class. How would you explain Transmetals from Beast Wars? And there's no real explanation to it. You know, they were mutated by a transwarp wave that was like powered by alien energy. You don't necessarily have to explain it. You know, like the Vok did a lot of weird stuff with technology. The idea that their energy would warp or mutate a transformer into something that's more like machine-like, or like more energetic. It's not too far-fetched in the realms of science fiction. I don't think it really needs that much explanation, really. Are there any upcoming or release figures that you feel are either likely remolds into for a figure or engineering buddies with a figure? Being United Boulder Clash, looking like very obvious pre-engineer for Cybertron Ransack. I mean, that does kind of fit. I do feel like Cybertron Ransack could work from that mold. You would have to remold a lot of it. You might just be looking at reusing the engineering for it. So it's, I mean, that one does come to mind. You'd have to figure out how to do Crumple Zone. I don't think you can do a Ransack without a Crumple Zone. As far as like bigger figures, I don't really. I mean, there's obvious ones. Shadow Striker is going to be Sideburn. But I tend to, like, in the moment when I pick up a toy, I always kind of look at it and go, this will be more interesting when it's this or that character, you know? Right now we're speculating the new, like, United Chase is either going to be Cliff Jumper or Lockdown, and I'd be more interested in either of those than I am Chase, even though Chase isn't a bad toy. So that one's a little bit tricky. That was a little bit tricky. I don't know any offhand that I look at and go, yeah, you're going to be this character. Am I the only one who wishes that Nightbeat had a bigger presence in the franchise? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Nightbeat is a very original character, very different for an Autobot. There's a lot of story potential. A lot of story potential for a Nightbeat. I mean, it is very weird. It's very weird that we haven't gotten it more often. Do you think we'll see a core class Sumac to go with a slowly growing animated cast? If the animated toys do well, probably, because you don't really have a ton of choices for core class. She wouldn't be a bad one. You would have to come up with an alt mode for her, because I don't think human girl to robot is going to be that easy to engineer. So you got to figure out something to do with her. We'll see. I would like to see it, though. What about a team of Autobot water vehicle combiners or a new version of the Multiforce? The Multiforce are extremely complicated. To do them as modern figures, you're basically talking about doing 6 Energon Deluxes that could also combine into one giant robot, which is asking a lot of modern engineering. We discussed a water vehicle combiner in a previous Q&A video. I mean, water vehicles in general are very underrepresented in Transformers, to the point where the only one in recent memory that I know got released was with Deathsaurus, Boater. And that's a Micromaster. So it's weird. It's a weird choice. But yeah, like, I think there's definitely legs to that. You could do it. What's something really dumb you remember doing in Pokemon when you were a kid? Mine was not knowing the dragon types were a thing until the Dragon Gym. To be fair, if you played the older Pokemon games, dragon types were extremely rare. Like, Gen 1 only had 3 dragon types, and they were all in the same family. I had the original Pokemon Red, and I got stuck in Victory Road. Somehow I had managed to wedge myself into a spot where I could not exit. Like, thinking back to it, I can't even remember how I managed to do it, or if it even was possible for me to do. You know, all I can remember is just being in the cave in Victory Road, and just hitting a spot where all I could do was go up and down a ladder, and I was just stuck, and I couldn't get out. And I ended up resetting my entire game. I had almost beaten the game, and I ended up resetting. In my head, like, I have to restart my entire game. I deleted my save. I started all over again. Picked a different starter. Sucked a lot. I forgot that if you run out of Pokemon, you get warped back to the the last Pokemon Center that you visited. So I could have just let all of my Pokemon get knocked out, and then just ended up back in front of Nurse Joy, and gotten out and saved my game file. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Are you excited for the 40th anniversary and what Hasbro Takara will do with it? I kind of am, because it is a big milestone to hit. I do know that, we have Missing Link, which is a really exciting release. Takara just announced that they're going to be doing more, that there are Masterpiece toys being announced this year that are specifically for the 40th anniversary. I'm sure Hasbro's got more stuff up their sleeve, because right now we only know a few figures of Wave 2 and United. So we have a ton of different things to look forward to. Yeah, I think they're going to do some really, really cool stuff this year. For Transformers 1, what do you think the movie should focus on? The impact the war has on Cybertron and civilians, or the formation of the Autobots and Decepticon factions? We definitely know it's going to focus, from what we already know, we know it's going to focus on how, the relationship between Optimus Prime and Megatron before the war began, which is not a bad approach to it, because it does add a lot of deeper meanings to their conflict later on. So that's not a bad idea. That's not a bad way to focus it. Also, I think, I would think that, yeah, forming the Decepticon faction, I think similar to, a lot of the comic books, I could definitely see it going in a similar direction where the Autobots need new leadership, but they're already established, and it's the Decepticons that rise up under Megatron as a brand new faction. I feel like that's the direction to go in. Do you think a Beast Wars style series starring the Dinobots and Shockwave's Viacons could work? Maybe as a comic book series? Definitely not as a toy line or a cartoon, but as a comic book focusing on Dinobots and Shockwave, you would definitely have some fans' attention with that one. Just because, it's that, that popular a batch, See, so you order a Transformer in late December, arrives on the 31st, but you don't open it until the 1st. Does that make your last of the previous year, the first of the new year? Technically both. Yeah, this is like what this is like an international dateline question kind of thing. Yeah, I think, I mean, for me, I feel like it counts as the day you bought it, even if you haven't received it yet. That's how I would officially tally it. But it is technically both, I guess. Let's see, since we just recently got 2 Armorizers in Transformers Legacy United, Boulder Crash, Magnus, and they both have rock-like vehicle modes, would it be cool if we got Armorizers and have beast modes, kind of like the Fossilizers? That's actually an interesting direction, to not just do vehicles, which me and my friends at TFCon actually just started coming up with the worst ones, and guess what? They're actually making one. They're making a helicopter that's a rock. But we didn't really consider animals. That would actually be interesting. Like an eagle that looks like it's made of stone would look super cool. We're going back to a turtle. Turtle, just a giant rock. A turtle armorizer would basically be a rock lord. It'd be a rock with legs. But no, that's actually not a bad idea. I hadn't even thought about that direction. What's a character you want in Smash Brothers will never get in? I was pulling for Geno. I was one of those. I want Geno. If we got Mario RPG earlier in the Switch's lifespan, that might have been possible. As far as legacy characters, I would love for Chrono from Chrono Trigger, because it's one of them. It's one of those games that's usually in the running for greatest video game of all time. It is a Super Nintendo game. It is a legendary game. And Chrono would be fun to have. But the fact that he's just in one game kind of makes him a little bit more obscure than, anyone in Smash, really. Do you think it's better to have Optimus be overall leader of the Autobots with only sub-factions being special force groups? Do you have multiple factions with Autobots could work with? It really depends on the story. Animated did a great job of making Optimus Prime a sub commander. And a lot of stories do a lot to make Optimus Prime really good as the overall commander. It really just depends on the kind of stories you want to tell. You want to tell a story about like coming up in the ranks of the Autobots and what it's like to kind of have like a hierarchy over you, commanding what you can and cannot do on a greater scale. Animated. Optimus Prime is a lower leader, and then if you want to have like the horrors of war and the struggles of like trying to protect an entire planet, yeah, Optimus is the full-time leader as the top leader. It depends on the story you want to tell. What's your favorite Gundam design? See, I'm not a big... I think I've said it in multiple Q&As. I'm not a big Gundam fan. I'm really not. I watched Gundam Wing. I watched G Gundam. I really like G Gundam. And everything after that is like some of 08MS Team, some of 0079, some of the original, some of Seed, and just lost interest more and more every time I watched. I watched a little bit of Witch from Mercury. I do like the main Gundam from that one, that design, but at the moment I can't even remember its name. That's how little I pay attention to Gundam. From the Gundams I have seen, the one Gundam I bought just because I really like the look of it was, and I can't even remember its name offhand. I just had the name in my head. It's the red frame one, the samurai looking one. God, someone's gonna say it in the comments section now. God, it's gonna pop back into my head like 10 questions from now too. What part of animated Starscream's personality do you think Slipstream is made from? My personal guess would be treachery. Or just like overall trust or lack thereof. I don't know. I mean, I do really think Derek was just trolling the fans and never really had an aspect of Starscream's personality in mind. I think it was really just a way of getting people to talk. What would you think of doing a future Q&A with someone else there to bounce stuff off of? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Number one, because let's be honest, it's my audience, so people want to hear my questions. People want to hear my answers, rather. So I don't think there's anything to gain by having a guest host. Also, these videos tend to be an hour and a half long. This one's probably going to go longer because it's the most comments I've ever had on one of these. If I had someone else answering with me, you're looking at over 2 hours. I'm not going to ask anyone to watch a 2-hour video from me. I'm not H-Bomber guy. It's just not a thing that's ever going to happen. Also, I tend to do these really late at night, so there's no one really awake to do it with anyway. So now that we have Bumblebee movie concept, Megatron, and Sideswipe, what characters do you want to get the Bumblebee movie treatment? We don't have Sideswipe. We have Sunstreaker. And really, we have no idea. Because, those, as far as we know, those legitimately are designs that they had done for the Bumblebee movie that just never got made into the film. I would hope there was a Trailbreaker in there. I would hope that there's a weird take on Reflector. Just like my go-tos in G1 that never get enough representation. I genuinely don't know. They're just fun. You have a backlog of unbuilt model kits. How many? At one time it was like 40. Now I have in the last month or so I've made a concise effort to try to minimize my number. I have tried very hard to get enough of them whittled down and try to thin the herd, as it were. I think I've built like 7 different model kits in the last month, and I've got 2 in the process right now. One of them I'm stuck on deciding what alternate parts to use. I'm like either a red or an orange color. I'm not sure which one would look best right now. And then another one another one's going to look like crap if I don't panel line it, and the panel lining is taking forever, so I'm putting it off. But yeah, I'm doing a lot more model kit building. I'm thinning the herd. Do you have any sentimental plushies or comfort figures? Let's see. Figures that are extremely nostalgic due to their qualities. Ones you'll never get rid of despite a better or pristine version existing due to the fond memories associated with the copy you own. I mean, there is the G1 Ramjet my grandmother got me from a yard sale, and I have a really strong memory of where it was in my old hometown, where the yard sale was. That one I'm never going to get rid of ever. I have like Power Master Optimus Prime was my Optimus Prime growing up. That one I prefer over like the Jinrai that they did. I'm looking at my G1 shelves right now. I mean, there's a lot that I have some kind of attachment to, I have, friends who got me like really important toys, that like meant a lot to me, like Squawk Talk and Beast Box. That I almost cried when a friend got me those. There's a bunch of them. Not really plushies. I didn't really keep any of my childhood plushies. Though if I went back and got like a fresh Elaroo, for anyone who remembers what a Wuzzle was, then maybe. Is the new Vac Metal and HasLabs different from the old Beast Wars machine stuff, or all $250 toys doomed to crumble on us? Keep in mind, there are toys from Generation 1 that have been chromed, and they are still completely intact. The truth is, we don't know until time tells us, but a lot of the chrome flaking from that era had more to do with the plastic and just being just having an improper surface for the Vac Metal to adhere to, more than just the Vac Metal being problematic itself. It was a twofold problem back then. So as long as they corrected it now, it should be fine. It should be fine. I mean, I don't, I've had, Star Saber's chrome for me is fine. Mine's not even scratched. So yeah, I don't necessarily think it's gonna be doomed, but time will tell. What animal would G1 Optimus Prime pick as a maximal beast mode where there's no when there's no strategic or other limitations? I mean, I just did a video on this. It's a 4-week-old question. So the video answer since then was I picked an elephant for him, which could technically work. So potentially that, at least as far as it's like a powerful, big, like what's the animal equivalent of a semi-truck? Okay, it's an elephant. If you can remember the Advent verses well enough, which year was better when you compare like to like? Which ones had better Transformers? Which ones had better figurines? I think the Pokemon figures in the first year were better, especially because they did occasionally have, because remember how that calendar worked. It was 2 really bad ones or 1 really good one. And those really good ones really could pass for official product. They were really, really nice. And I still have a few of them because they're just like really cute little Pokemon figures. But I do think the Transformers from this year, I think when they were duds, they were much bigger duds than the previous year. But when they hit, they were far more interesting. The little tiny little tiny tumbler Batmobile Transformer, that's interesting. That weird little Cybertron scattershot that's engineered like a Happy Meal toy. That's interesting. It's a lot more interesting than just a run of Micromasters, getting a giant Minicon, things like that. So I think the Pokemon figurines were better than the Mario figurines, but I think this year's Transformer knockoffs were better than last year's. Let's see, if Takara improved the quality engineering of the Masterpiece Gatai line, what's the one combiner that would convince you to commit to the whole set? I mean, Computron. I just mentioned that. It's always going to be my favorite combiner. It's going to be my go-to answer. I would cave for a Constructicon set 2, because it is the iconic one. Let's not get that crossed. I mean, I feel like the RID Bullet Train is going to be an inevitable one as well. I might go in for that because I do love the Rail Racer design. And again, it would fall right into Takara being like safe with like this will work for train collectors as well as modern collectors. But I still feel like they're going to have a G1 focus to Masterpiece for a long, long time. So RID is probably way off the table. Thoughts on Festina, the GoBots Crasher homage in Ben 10 Omniverse? I think it's cool that Derek Wyatt snuck her in, but I don't watch Ben 10. So I have no basis on the character whatsoever. So apologies if that's unsatisfying. Besides Transformers, Funko Pops, and Tokusatsu transformation items, what toys do you collect? To be fair, I have basically cut myself off completely from Funko Pops. It's just, yeah. Ultimately, they're not the representation I want, and the only ones that I'm really interested in are the representations of things I can't get otherwise. You know, I'd much rather have real toys of the Mystery Science Theater robots. They are extremely expensive and very few and far between, so Funko Pops it is. Same with Tom from Toonami. But really, besides Transformers and really Kamen Rider stuff, I don't really do Super Sentai anymore outside like the occasional robot. The only real focused thing I have is Mega Man. I have like 3 different shelves of Mega Man merch in my room. Everything after that is very much like very pocket stuff. Like I have some of the Jazzware Sonic figures, but only like the Sonic Adventure cast. Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2. I have like Marvel Legends, but it's really just some Spider-Men, a cast of Avengers, and the Maximum Carnage crew. And I'm really hoping they do a Carrion to finish off the Carnage family, so I can actually start going back and getting like Cloak and Dagger, and hopefully they do a 90s Firestar, and I can make the Spider-Man team to go with them. That's the hope, anyway, Hasbro. Beyond that, like little things, there are amiibo I still collect. Splatoon amiibos I go for. What else? I go for Zelda and Metroid amiibo. So there's a few, but it's much more pocket stuff. And then, yeah, I've got like a swarm of Scythers behind me. Let's see. Do you think the potential for Diaclone robots as pilot vehicles could work in the Transformers world? It would work either as, maybe not even as like a G.I. Joe alternative, because G.I. Joe would just make their vehicles turn into mechs. I think it would work as a completely different organization, potentially either like Mech from Prime, where they're modifying modern vehicles to hide and do the robots in disguise thing themselves in an effort to flush out and disguise themselves from Transformers, so that when they find them, they can flip a button, turn into a battle robot, and take out the, threat to the humanity. That's where I think Diaclone would work. Human-made robots that imitate Transformers, but they are piloted. I think, and then more villainous at first. And then if you want to run a story where like they gain robot sentience and start, joining up with the Autobots, that's another thing. What would you do if Scott McNeil were to appear at the toy store while you were working and you didn't notice it until he did one of his many voices on you? Scott would have to be using a cloaking device for me to not realize it was him. I would recognize him from his hat. I would recognize him I'd recognize him just because I've seen Scott so many times. Like, I'd know him on the spot. Like, he would have to really sneak in for me to not notice him there. But no, like, you're talking about, like, jumping out of my chair and going to hug the man is what you're doing, because I haven't seen him in years. He hasn't been coming to MetroCon. See, which version of Soundwave, aside from G1, do you think had the best voice? I really like the voice they did for Cyberverse. Cyberverse, strangely enough, had a really strong Soundwave character. Like, you wouldn't expect it, but they did. And I love Cyberverse Soundwave. And he sounded cool. That's probably there's a bunch of cool ones out there, but I really think that's the one that nailed it for me, at least as far as the voice goes. What is your favorite story or character arc in any Transformers media? Man, I mean, it's hard to go against Beast Wars as far as animation. But as far as just like stories I was really invested in, Lost Light, and like subsequently More Than Meets the Eye. I love the space opera. I love the sense of humor it had. I love how strong and over the top the characters were. Loved that series. Loved that storyline. Really liked Windblade too. Like her last storyline where she's running against Starscream, a Transformer story about political intrigue, and I was actually like really like eagerly anticipating every issue that came out. Like I was taken aback by just how much I really love that story. I think those are going to be the answers I go for. Who's your favorite name dump trademark protection Transformers character in the Unicron trilogy? Favorite one that was just a blatant name dump. I mean, there's a lot of characters who aren't just name dumps, but you know they exist. They are, you know. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to run through my head of like all the different characters we got and how many of them were just blatantly using a G1 name, or even a. I don't think any of them use Beast Wars names. So outside of like Scorponok, but that's still G1. Yeah, I'm really trying to think here. This is one that makes me sit and think because I have to think about 3 years worth of toys. Like, what's the good name dump out of any of them? Yeah, I mean, my brain's blanking right now. I'm sure I'll think of something as soon as this thing closes off. But right now, like, my brain is not. Right now, my brain is not really processing it. Yeah, I'm sorry if I don't have an answer for that one. It's just there's a lot for me to think through, and it's like 2:30 in the morning right now. Full disclosure. We'd love to hear what TFA character you want to be in Legacy United the most. Lockdown. Definitely Lockdown. Because I would love to see how they would engineer him today. Because here's the thing. The way they engineered that toy is still completely valid. They could still make a super tall, lanky deluxe out of a modern, modern car transformer. They absolutely could. I don't think they will because retooling it into something is very difficult. Like, all we got were, like it was Circuit and Axer, which were both very crowbarred into that mold. And, like, you know, not even that version of the mold. Yeah, I would say the same thing for the Stunticon version. Like, we got Wild Rider. Again, crowbarred in. But no, I would go with Lockdown on that one. Preferred method for combiners, whether it's built in or use an exoskeleton plug onto system. I don't really like the exoskeleton style so much. They get away with it for Menasor because that's how he looked in the animation model, and they really didn't have much option in that one. Like, that's just how he had to combine. As far as like as far as like my preferred method, I generally do prefer combiners that are designed to go one way because they generally do come out a lot more solid and a lot more cohesive. I mean, I like the fun that comes with like scramble style swapping, and I can make anything an arm or leg if I wanted to, but ultimately, as far as a combiner goes, I really like the final product to be as solid as possible. So you need a dedicated system for that. Should Transformers have to continue the trilogy structure in the Generations line? They shouldn't. I mean, there's nothing that says they have to, but working in trilogies really has been what has worked for Transformers, and it has worked ever since Beast Wars. So, keeping in mind, it's very difficult to keep retailers and kids interested in something for longer than just a few years. So they need to refresh it, if only so the retailers can look at it and go, that's new and unique. I think I will buy 80 of them, please. So you have to count for that. So I think that's best how it works. Hasbro tasks you to give them a Transformers crossover concept, and you're allowed to choose from literally any pop culture reference, regardless of trademark and age appropriateness. On top of your head, which one would you choose? Definitely has to be something more vehicle focused. I mean, me as a kid who wants it all, it'd probably be Ninja Turtles. Because not only are you looking at a lot of vehicles that they use for toys and in the cartoons, you got the Turtle Van, you got the Neutrinos car, and also, Shredder's equivalent of that. You've got, like, the Foot Cycle, you've got the Technodrome, you've got the pneumatic modules. You've got a ton of options as far as vehicles go. Figure out how to make a transforming blimp, by the way. But you also have the characters themselves, because some of the most popular Ninja Turtle toys out there were the mutation ones that, actually, like the turtles that could turn into turtles and all that. So you have those as options that Hasbro could do too. I would love an entire line like that. I think it'd be cool. It'd be very cool. Let's see. Across the entire franchise, what is your favorite Super Mario suit or power-up? I like the Hammer Brothers suit from number 3. It's between that or the Tanuki. And I mean old school Tanuki, not like modern raccoon that looks like the Tanuki. I mean proper Tanuki that lets you turn into a statue. That fun one. But no, I love the Hammer Brothers suit. I mean it's next to impossible to use. Because you have to plan for the arc those hammers get thrown in. But I thought it was fun. I thought it was fun turning my enemy's ability into mine. And I just thought throwing hammers was a good time. Let's see. And even in adulthood, I think throwing hammers is fun. But that's neither here nor there. And don't tell the courts I said that. Now that we have the Arc and Nemesis of Titan figures, do you think we might want to get Beast Worship Axalon? We got the same question. I'm not going to ask everyone to look through 200 comments on these things in order to make sure your question hasn't been asked. Well, it's just I think it's hilarious that you came up with the same question. It helps me think of what the thumbnail's going to be. Question: how much C could Sea Spray spray if Sea Spray could spray C? 6. Let's see, comment. Do you think Studio Series is an age where they can go back and make new versions of earlier Studio Series? I think they hit that age as soon as they did the Bumblebee movie, Volkswagen Bumblebee, and it was atrocious because it was like the original design, and it looks nothing like he did in the movie, and I really want them to redo that one. I feel like if they were to go back and redo any of the older toys at this point, they would come out worse because the budget has changed so much. The only ones I'd really want them to redo would be, like the Bumblebee movie ones. Because the first run of Shadow, Dropkick, and Bumblebee, really the only 3 characters in the movie, let's be honest, none of them were that good. I mean, Helicopter Dropkick was kind of fun. I kind of like that toy. But it's not very good representation of the character. So I would love another run of those 3 characters in those first 3, styles that they had. But as far as the rest of the cast, not so much. I think they're fine just being, leaving it as is. Let's see. So you haven't watched SSSS Dyna Xenon. Have you seen the design, and so what do you think of it? I mean, I have seen the design. A friend of mine got me the model kit. It's over there. I looked at it. I see it. I do think it's cool. I mean, it reminds me of Star Saber in that it's got shoulder cannons, big wings like Victory Saber, and it's, mostly red, yellow, and, kind of grayish white. That's kind of there. It's kind of a thing, maybe. It's a weird design. I like it overall, but I don't like it as much as the original design that it's based on, King Gridman. I really think that's pinnacle tokusatsu design. Genuinely do. It's fun. It's fun the way it is, but, I still prefer the original. It looks cool, though. Well, it does look cool. What do you think of the Generations 1 cartoon timeline remastered? For example, what happened between Season 2 and the movie, the introduction of the Terracons and Protectobots, fixing episodes, both animated corrections. I thought this was stuff that was, like, ripe for the comic books to fill in. Because, yeah, I would like to know what happened between Season 2 and the movie. I'd like to know what happened between Beast Wars and G1. You know, like, how did they settle up, how did they settle up a 9 million year old war in the span of, like, a century, and then move on to, like, reformatting the entire race into Maximals and Predacons? Seems like a huge story that's never been properly told. And I would love to see that. But yeah, like, the idea of, like, going back and, like, figuring out how all these characters in Season 2 got to Earth, where Protectobots and Terracons and all those started coming from, that'd be nice too. How would you integrate Webdiver into Transformers? I mean, you're looking at sub-faction at that point. Just basically Autobots that are designed to be super high-tech or futuristic. It would actually be cool if you actually did it as, like, a group of time travelers that actually come back into the past to try and influence the Transformer war themselves directly. Or, like, save Optimus Prime from some great threat that ruins the future, etc. Now, it takes away the digital aspect, but I feel like that's the weakest aspect of Webdiver. The strength is in the designs and the uniqueness of them. It'd be cool. It'd be cool to do. Let's see. Would you like to see pre-Beast Mode Maximals and Predacons like Bakan did in 2006? Absolutely. If we had more futuristic vehicles in Generations, I would say do it again. Do it right now. Do it as a subline. Do it as a Amazon exclusive. Do it as a Walmart capsule line. It's a brilliant idea. And I feel like if we can redo Shattered Glass, we can absolutely redo Dawn of Futures Past. Absolutely redo that one. I've seen multiple channels I follow do this similar to Twitch, so I'm curious, would you be interested in doing channel memberships for your YouTube? I've thought about opening it up, but I feel like the Patreon kind of solves that. I know there are some who would rather not participate on Patreon, and I have had a few comments say that they would support me on YouTube if I did channel memberships. I genuinely don't know what I would offer for them, though. Like, I'm not good at coming up with emotes. I'm really not good at coming up with rewards. Because I get so busy, and I don't know what's really going to be appealing to you guys. So it's difficult. It's difficult. I mean, I don't want to have to split my attention between Patreon and YouTube memberships. Maybe if I get a really good idea for it, or maybe if I think I can make it worthwhile, I'd go for it. Let's see. If Hasbro were to go belly up, what do you think would happen to the Transformers IP? I think the most likely, well, keep in mind, it'd go to Takara Tomy, for starters. Because they hold, see, here's the thing, like, it's really Takara Tomy that holds, like, the master ownership of Transformers. It's kind of like a weird split situation with Hasbro, but ultimately it's technically their property. So I would say they would just look for a new U.S. distributor and a new U.S. partner for like the designing and all that, and you'd probably see it go to Mattel, because they're really the only other game in town big enough to do it. I don't think you're going to see Hasbro go belly up. I know they're in trouble right now, but every company goes through things like that. So we'll see. We'll see. But no, I mean, the Transformer IP is too valuable. Way too valuable. Like, there's very few toy lines I can say they've been going consistently for 40 years. Hasbro is one, Transformers is one of the very, very few. You would absolutely have someone swoop in and purchase that up, or license Takara to continue making them in the U.S. What's your thoughts on the War for Cybertron Netflix series? I think they way overhyped themselves for something that ultimately wasn't that great of a story to tell. It really did feel like we have these toys coming out. Here's this basic story for them. Here's a picture. Here's a depiction of Skylynx that you never wanted and is very and is kind of unpleasant. Here's a very unpleasant take on Bumblebee. Here's an Optimus Prime going through survivor's guilt, because that's the kind of story you always wanted out of Optimus Prime. I don't like it. I don't like the Netflix series. And then you get to the Beast section where Tigatron and Dinobot seem to have each other's voices, and they try to rush Dinobot's season and a half story arc in the span of 20 minutes. And I really hate how they did that. I really hate their depiction of Beast Wars Megatron as just a G1 Megatron fanboy. I don't like how like confusing and convoluted it got, incorporating the Dead universe and Galvatron from the future. It's a messy series. It's a very messy series. If you could add one Decepticon character to the main four, which one would it be? I feel like answering Computron has like burned out my my bias question answers, so I can't say Blitzwing. Honestly, I'd probably put in Reflector, aside from the fact that like Reflector is from the original cast of Transformers. There are potential stories you could tell with him. There's potential depictions that would be really, really cool. I don't know why you don't do that. I don't know why you have like there's like the one. He's like the 1 year, one Decepticon that they make no effort to put back in the franchise and the story in some way, shape, or form. And it's a very odd choice to me. With most of, if not the whole Rise of the Beast cast being done for a studio series, do you think Hasbro is starting to run out of figures to do for the line? Absolutely it is. Absolutely. Don't tell me like taking Gamer Edition without taking Gamer Edition into account. I absolutely have to take Gamer Edition into account because they're absolutely doing Gamer Edition to fill out that series. When you think about it, the only characters that really don't have Studio Series figures so far are from, you know, Age of Extinction and The Last Knight, which are two extremely unpopular Transformer movies. You have Skids and Mudflap, who you will never see another toy of ever again. Like, there really is just exceptionally few places to go. And it does become exceptionally difficult. So, yeah, I think Studio Series has covered just about everything they can at this point. If they don't branch out the way they're branching out, then the line goes away, which may not be a bad thing. You know, like, I wouldn't mind Hasbro just deciding, hey, this had a good run. We've done everything we can with it. Goodbye. And then just focus on Generations and whatever cartoon is going on at the time. Like, we had a good run. Maybe it's time to go. What other shows are you planning to do on TJTV, or not sure yet? I'm really not sure yet. I'm really not even sure of TJTV's future, because we'll discuss it, because I got to do a channel update video soon. But, man, it was so much work and so much energy for a video that ultimately didn't make nearly as many views as videos that I literally put together in a couple hours. It makes it really, like, even as a Patreon goal and a Patreon reward thing, it makes it really hard to justify. I hate to view this kind of thing as a business, but I really do. You know, in the same amount of time, I could have done 10 videos that all would have done more numbers and made more money. It's a very, very difficult series. It's a very difficult video to make. So we'll see. I mean, I'm going to do it until I can at least figure out some kind of... alternative. Let's see. What else do we have here? What's next? Do you think that we'll get a G1 Broadside? He will be a commander class. I don't think so, because they really do prioritize the size of the character. And Broadside's character size in the G1 cartoon is very inconsistent. But I do feel like he's going to end up like a lot of the modern Triple Changers and just be like a dense leader class. I don't think they're going to break the size of the Triple Changers up across, like, well, you know, Blitzwing's is like a big Voyager. Astro Train is a big-ish Voyager. I don't think Broadside is going to be like, oh, no, he's a giant compared to the rest. Even though the vehicle modes make sense for it, I understand. I just don't think they're going to want to do that. What keeps you collecting? I mean, mostly because I enjoy the tactile sensation of a Transformer. It's like very fiddle toy for me. I appreciate Transformers in different ways now. Aside from just wanting to take on toys of like my favorite characters, so I have like representations I can always see and interact with, but also just I'm fascinated by the engineering of them, and there is something kind of inspiring to looking at a shelf full of characters and going, every single one of them is a distinct character that someone came up with, which is really, really cool. TJ, if you were a pro wrestler, what song or musical piece would you use as your ring theme? It wouldn't be The Touch. I wouldn't do The Touch, because really The Touch does not make for good entrance music. It doesn't have like the right impact. I had a few ideas over the years, because I've played the wrestling games. I've been a wrestling fan my whole life. I really like, if you remember Killer Instinct, the track called Trailblazer. Look it up, Killer Instinct Trailblazer. That has a really good vibe for a wrestling theme, because it's got like an introductory guitar riff that's perfect for like inform the audience this guy's about to come out, and then it's just like super good, like fast-paced metal. It's perfect theme. A wrestler named Matt Sydal actually has a theme song based on it, which is really, really cool. I also had in my mind like I Stand Alone was one that I used in my head for a long time. Breaking Benjamin, Blow Me Away, that they use for Halo. That makes for a good wrestling theme too. That's I think those are the main three that I used to hack into WWE games so I could come out to those. Since Mattel and Hasbro are working together, do you think we could get Transformers Batmobile, and which version of Batmobile would you prefer? 89 or the Tumbler or the Batmobile? So here's the thing. You don't just have to get... So number one, Mattel I don't think has the DC license right now. I think it's McFarlane that has the master license. And I don't think he'd be like... I don't think he'd reject the idea. I think you could get him to cooperate, but you have to get DC Comics to cooperate as well, and Warner Brothers, rather. You have to get them on board. And keep in mind, since Hasbro produces the Marvel toys, they might see that as a little bit iffy, because now they're trusting the DC license to the Marvel people, so they could intentionally make the toy bad to make Batman toys look bad in general. That's the kind of corporate paranoia you have to prepare for. And it really, like, you have to be a juggernaut bigger than Hasbro in order to get DC and Marvel to cooperate on a single thing. Lego gets away with it because Lego is the biggest toy company in the world, bar none. So they get away with it. I don't know if Hasbro really could. A K9 Minicon. Okay, can we get a retool into Rescue Out Servo? I mean, honestly, at this point, I'm expecting them to do anything. I think when they say everything's on the table, I legitimately think they mean everything's on the table. If Legacy Evolution United had an accompanying comic or TV series, what character interactions between any two characters from any two pieces of Transformers media would be a must-have for those comics / that series? I mean, if you're doing the characters right, then yeah, like you nail it right there with Armada Starscream and Sunbow and like G1 Starscream, because they are rooted in the same idea but vastly different characters. I would almost want to see if Armada Starscream and Beast Wars Dinobot got along because of a similar sense of honor to them. I would like to see, Prime and Primal just kind of sit down and compare notes, little fascinating character combinations like that. I'm trying to think of like what would be like a really cool. That's another one where it's like I could sit down and come up with like a dozen different combinations if I had time to actually sit down and think about all the different characters that are in 3 years worth of Transformers. I think that's a general rule. Maybe I need to add that to the rule. Don't make me think about 3 years worth of Transformers at the same time. What would I do with Mega Empress? I like the concept of Mega Empress. I would like to see if they were to do her again for them to not just be like the repaint of oh God, I can't even remember her name offhand. It's been so long since I had to think about the torchbearers. I remember the torchbearers. I don't remember like and Pyra Magna. I don't remember the combiner's name offhand. It's late. I would want them to be different vehicles. I would expect them to be the same toolings as those characters, but I would really prefer them to be retooled vehicles to be a little bit more standout and feel a little bit more Decepticon. I do like them as a set, though. I do like them as a set of characters. With the Infernac universe being introduced in United, would a Transformers combiner based on Krygan and Pyre Magnacore be a good idea? I don't know who those are. I genuinely don't know who those are. Let's mess up my image in Google's. Oh, in humanoids. Potentially. I mean, you're gonna be able to combine these things in some way just because of the nature of the toys. So it wouldn't really shock me. It wouldn't really shock me. I don't know. I think they're just pulling from everywhere at this point. I'd rather them lean closer to Rock Lords and just see what they can get away with it. What, in your opinion, if Optimus Primal stayed as a bat and Megatron stayed as a gator? Now, I think you could get away with Primal that way. But, Megatron as a gator, I would equate the same way as, Optimus, G1 Megatron as a gun. Where, the alt mode on its own is essentially useless compared to everybody else. So, it's a slow belly-crawling beast. I think the Beast Wars would be a lot lamer if the leader of the Predacons was just a big, flat, belly-crawling lizard. It wouldn't have worked. Primal would be fine as a bat, because flight, because swords, etc. Megatron would struggle. Imagine everyone scurrying away after a battle, and and Megatron's just flopping on the ground, just trying to get some speed up. Have you played any of the Persona games? No, I have not. Because I have so little free time these days, I'm scared to start JRPGs. That's why I have not dabbled in, I have Octopath Traveler, and I haven't really touched Octopath Traveler because it's a huge time-consuming game. It's a huge time sink. So I can't really get into those. I can't really get into those anymore. Very, very rarely. Because it would basically be all of my gaming time devoted to just that game. They look cool, though. I've seen my friends stream it, and it looks fun. What if instead of waking up in the 80s, they wake up in pirate times, and the Autobots are pirate ships, and the cons are sea monsters? You'd have to figure out how to scan sea monsters. It's definitely a cool take. I think you'd get a little bit bored of your Autobots if they were all pirate ships. Because I got news for you. They didn't have a whole lot of variation to how they looked. There's just so many ways you can make a boat with sails look. So it's a fun idea. I think one Autobot or Decepticon that turns into a pirate ship and one that turns into a Kraken would be cool, but I think that's about as far as you could go with that concept. If Tomy does another crowdfunded Star Trek ship, which one would you like to see? Instead of the hero ships, like to see the fan favorite designs, Akira, Prometheus, Nova, etc. I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to, because I didn't see them do a crowdfunded Star Trek ship. I don't follow Tomy that well, and I don't follow Star Trek toys, so I don't know. I will tell you, personally, I would just prefer Enterprise. I would prefer different versions of the Enterprise. It's a boring answer, but it's true. Let's see. What's your favorite kind of cheesecake? I had some, I don't have cheesecake that often. It's a very rare thing for me. I did get to try pumpkin spice cheesecake, like pumpkin pie cheesecake. That was incredibly good. I would love to have that again, but it's very seasonal. Have to wait for October for that again. Why do Studio Series Deluxes still use ball joints for shoulders, hips, etc.? Probably because their designs are generally more complicated, so that's just the engineering that team sticks to. They don't really have a lot of room for those kind of things on a lot of the Studio Series movie characters. So I think that's just how it just kind of hammered out. It does make a weird inconsistency, but it's never really bothered me too much, you know? Let's see. Yeah, I don't think it's so much. I think it really is just like different teams handle different Transformer toy lines. You know, and the Studio Series team just uses ball joints. That team just feels like they need to keep using them. At this point, it's like I said, they're better for the movie designs, so it's just a brand consistency at that point. Since you're huge on Gal Gaigar, have you seen Better Man or read the King of Ruin novels? No, I have not. So again, I just don't have the time. I just really don't have the time. Like, I have my few things that I enjoy and take in, and that's what I watch, and that's what I read. But no, I have not seen Better Man. I've not seen the novels. Again, like, I've been in a Gal Gaigar mood, so maybe. Big maybe, though. What character would you like to see their original VA come back for one last performance before they retired? Any, really. I mean, I'd love to see it come back. Now, the G1 cast is a huge ask because, unfortunately, quite a few of them have passed on. But the Beast Wars cast, most of them are still around, so I'd be more leaning toward them. I'd like to see Gary Chalk as Optimus one last time. David Kaye as Megatron. I would absolutely love David Kaye as Megatron one last time. I think Scott as any of them would be a very obvious choice for me, too. But yeah. Was the obsession with Megatron turning into a fun? What is the obsession with Megatron turning into a fun? Concept art Megatron. Concept art Megatron doesn't turn into a fun. He turns into a tank and a jet. I know some people have goofed around and turned him into I assume you mean gun. It's really just because that was what he originally was, because that's what toys were available out of Japan at the time. As simple as that. It's just nostalgia. Could you remember some of the most hilariously inappropriate names ever given to a Transformers character? I believe you mentioned Double Crossed in the past, so I think it could be wrong. Personal pick would be Slapter. Yeah, Erector is one of them. Blowpipe, Windbreaker, Discharge. There's a lot. There's a lot of them. On the topic of Studio Series, any idea why Hasbro hasn't done Bayverse Hound in Studio Series yet? Most likely for the reasons that they don't do a lot of those late Bayverse movie casts. Number one, The Last Night is a little bit poisonous because it is considered to be a very big failure for the franchise. So they might not be too eager to do those characters. Also because Studio Series, I mean, like the last run of movie toys is kind of a proto-Studio Series. They're kind of done in the same budget and scale. So for a while, they might not have felt those were necessary to do. And there is a science to actually creating a demand based on ignoring characters. So they very well could have intentionally ignored that cast, knowing they were less popular, in order to make sure there was a high demand for them now that they were the only gaps left to fill in the Studio Series line. So it's very likely that we could actually be getting them at some point. Probably, I wouldn't be surprised if, Hound or Drifts showed up in the listings this year. We will have to see, though. We're just kind of up in the air with just about anything at this point. So, but they will have to do it if they want to keep Studio Series going. They're going to have to do Age of Extinction, and they're going to have to do The Last Night. Beyond just like Like, the few characters like Lockdown that they've actually done. Let's see. Do you think there should be a Cupid transformer? Probably not. I think we're okay without a robot making others fall in love. If there was a Transformers equivalent to Marvel's What If series, what stories would you like to see done in that style? They would be what ifs. They would be, what if Optimus survived the '86 movie and it wasn't written by by a hot rod hater that just wanted to write a hit piece on the character. And it would be like, like taking the Marvel comics in a different direction, or like Beast Wars, what if Dinobots survived? There's another one. What if Dinobots survived the Beast Wars? That's another one. It's like weird what ifs. Do you have a favorite monster or villain group or faction in Kamen Rider or Super Sentai? For Super Sentai, I really do like how Bokenger did things with like the split villain groups. I like all of those. I liked all of those a lot. Let's see, as far as Kamen Rider goes, like favorite monsters or villains, it's hard to think of so many. It's hard to think of them offhand. Yeah, unfortunately, nothing's really coming to mind at the moment. My head has been so far out of Kamen Rider. I'll be honest with you. It's getting fuzzy. It's starting to get fuzzy up there. Let's see. Strangely specific question. What's a figure that you saw in person, overlooked, and greatly regretted it while having a hard time finding it again? I could go all the way back to like Beast Wars, Transmetal 2, Black Arachnia, who I had the chance to pick up brand new off the shelf, picked up a Pokemon toy instead, and then never found her at shelf again. I have her now, but I had to pay, aftermarket, it's used, etc. I'm trying to think if there's any like that I like overlooked and like went, oh my god, I wish I had grabbed that. Because so many of those that I have gone back and bought. There's very few that I, like, put aside and went, generally if I put it aside and it goes away, I'm like, oh, bummer. Oh, well, moving on. There's very few that I am not capable of just going back and getting these days. So, like, most of that I've pretty much cleared up. There's very few that still happens. You mentioned before about wondering if Tidal Wave has bicep swivel. Did you notice he needs bicep swivel to transform his arm? Yeah, ha ha. Ha ha. From one Owl House fan to another, what palisman would be the coolest beast former? Well, I mean, most of the palismans are just, normal little animals. And they're not, like, big expressive animals either. They're just, like, simple, like cute pet style things. As far as ones that would be coolest beast formers, there is the goose. There is the goose palisman. That would be funny. There is no goose in Beast Wars. It'd just be a really annoying one. What made you decide to start a YouTube channel? I've always been the creative type, and I got stuck in a situation where, I was stuck at home, couldn't really get a job because I was taking care of family, so I just needed something to do with my time, and it just kind of stuck. It just, like, for all the different styles of art and expressiveness that I've attempted over the years, just making videos just kind of always satisfied me. So, yeah, I've never stopped. Do you think a collaboration with Guerrilla Games to make the machines from Horizon Zero Dawn Forbidden West into Transformers would work? It would work to a point. I think you could get one collaborative figure out of it and just do, what's the big flying one that looks super cool? I have it in Fortnite, but I don't remember the name of it. Like super cool Robo Glider thing. I don't know Horizon. I haven't played those games. I've been told I would be way into those games, but I haven't played them. But you can get away with one. After that, I think the overall design style of the robots, all kind of being the same color and aesthetic, would wear thin. So I think you might get away with one, maybe two. Do you think we'll ever get proper Scramble City combiners in the modern era? I don't know. I don't know. you asked the second question. I will say yes and just leave it at that. As far as like I mean, I'm sure because they want to keep a hold of the trademarks, and Transformer fans and nostalgic Transformer fans will always want, the combiner characters. I think they will try them again at some point. They'll just be a very different beast than what we got in Combiner Wars. Would you like a bowl of cereal? It's currently past 3 in the morning here. I think a bowl of cereal would not be appropriate at this time. Though my voice is getting quite parched, even with the water. So, something that sticks a little bit to the throat more, like cereal, would, like milk, wouldn't be too bad right now. What do you think Hasbro needs to change to make Transformers better sellers? Definitely some lower prices. Because I've had some toys that are like comparable in size, paint, better in features, but they are cheaper. And that really starts making me wonder. I really feel like Hasbro might just be charging way too much for what they're getting, especially considering the reach Transformers has. I really think if the Earthspark toy line was given the same attention that the Generations and Studio Series toy lines were given, those would definitely sell better. They'd be more expensive at the retail level, but they might actually sell to collectors because they aren't junk. Every now and then they make good ones. For the most part, they are average or below average compared to Generations toys. That's not good. That's really not good. So I think, less focus, and they're just not cool. Like Earthspark toys have a bunch of like gimmicky, flippy things that are supposed to be interesting for kids, but the toys just aren't cool. It's as simple as that. The toys aren't cool, kids aren't going to be interested. So they need to do that. And like as far as like Generations goes, I don't think they can really do anything different outside of like avoid more obscure characters. Like I know we're sick of G1, I know we're sick of the old standards, but guess what? Those sell. They sell. I just think they need to do more variety with those old characters is all. How did I come up with the name TJOmega? I mean, my name is Tyler James. That's not a stage name. The Omega part really did just come from like just like an inherent love of Greek mythology and just really liking the term. There wasn't really any like epiphany moment like I must be TJOmega. No, it just kind of felt right at the time. Are there any podcasts you'd be open to be a guest for, Transformers or otherwise? I mean, there's other Transformer podcasts that are bigger than like WTF and TFW. But honestly, I mean, it's very difficult for me to take a podcast appearance because my schedule is so random and chaotic. I'm usually so busy. I just can't. I just can't. I mean, more not because I don't want to do it, but because I don't want others to trust my schedule. My schedule is constantly getting screwed up. That's where it comes down to. So I generally turn down any podcast ask that I get. But if it's like, admittedly, if it's like a huge podcast that would help me get more reach, then it's a business decision. So I have to think that too. Since you are familiar with Studio Trigger, are you familiar at all with Gurren Lagann? I'm familiar with Gurren Lagann. I don't think it was inspired by the Headmaster gimmick. I think they just stumbled upon something similar. Really just as simple as that. Really just as simple as that. Yes, and yes, it is Gynax, not technically not Trigger. Can I get a happy birthday as is my birthday on the 12th? Well, it's very early, but happy birthday. I hope you have a good one. Would you like to see Hasbro adapt Transformers More Than Meets the Eye and Lost Light comics from IDW into a TV show? You wouldn't get away with a lot of stuff in Lost Light. Keep in mind, there is a scene where someone plays with the brain of a Transformer while they are still alive. You have Getaway, who was literally eaten inside out from scraplets bit by bit. You have Sunder. Sunder is a thing. You have Starsaber getting chopped in half, complete with blood. You would not be able to get away with it as a TV show, like especially something marketed to kids. I would like a chunk of it could be adapted for like an animated movie. That would work. See, what's a crossover you know for a fact would never happen, but you would like to see? So the thing is, they've done such a good job at actually getting these companies on board that I really don't think there's anything that isn't possible. Hasbro managed to work with Mattel to get Jurassic Park as a license, and they did it twice. They managed, like there's other companies that have the rights to like Back to the Future, and they managed to make that happen, and that was really good. We're seeing it now. Like there's a rumor of a Ninja, like that Project Renaissance in the computer listings is a Ninja Turtle crossover. They've been really good at getting those. So there's just some things where I think like maybe there are no limits. Maybe it is all on the table. Maybe they can manage to work this with just about any other company. I mean, really, if we're doing like a crossover like that, if like the one I think, based on what I said previously was DC. I actually do think it is very, very difficult to do DC and get like a transforming Batmobile, much as I would love it. Also, I do realize I forgot to say which Batmobile I would have wanted. I would probably be the 89, even though I think they would do the Tumbler, because that is such a recognized one these days. My preference is the Tim Burton one. Let's see. How do you afford all of these Transformers? Well, I work a day job on top of everything I do on YouTube and the Patreon. I do sell on eBay occasionally for extra money as well. So the hobby and the new toys kind of are paid with the old toys. And it's not like I bought all of these in the last year. You're looking at 20 years of purchasing. 20. It didn't all come out of nowhere. A lot of it, honestly, these days is also just waiting for sales. Like, I don't buy everything right as soon as it comes out anymore. So, it's a lot. It's a lot of, like, penny shuffling. But for the most part, the hobby pays for itself, and it pays some of my bills. And then the work, the work at the toy shop pays for the rest. So, it's not a bad system. How many waves could Shockwave shock if Shockwave could shock waves? Did two of you hit the same idea, or did you ask me two of these? The answer is 18, by the way, because he's very good at shocking waves. Let's see. That's a comment. Question. Do you think Plantformers could sell if they had a third in-between monster mode? That's actually not a bad idea, though I still think it would be very difficult to sell somebody on a transforming plant, even if they had a backup mode that you marketed to. It's a very big ask. Have you seen Disney's Wish? No. No, I have not. Again, haven't really had the chance to watch anything in a long time. What are some toys that you wish you could re-review because you think you were too harsh on it? I don't think there's anything that I was too harsh on. If anything, there's a few things I would re-review because I wasn't harsh enough. Sometimes because sponsorship got in the way and I had to be nice. Not the new YOLO Park stuff. Like, the YOLO Park stuff is genuinely really, really good. But when I had the Hobby Link sponsorship, I got some really junk things in that I had to play up the positives of. And I would have rather have been honest about it. Revenge of the Fallen RC was a gift from a friend, so I was a little bit nicer about it, when really, like, that's a pretty bad toy. So I probably should have been a little bit harsher than I was. So, things like that. I don't think there's anything I was too harsh on. If I wanted to re-review anything, it'd be the old Deca Driver, because I basically just lied about a lot of what that toy did. Because I thought I was correct, but I wasn't. But I did re-review that. I did the complete selection. So that all worked out. Have you ever played a Toho game, or do you think that you're not that insane for a game where the hardest difficulty is Lunatic? I don't like games that are, like, difficult as a point. I don't find, like, I would rather sit back and have, like, a little power fantasy of running around blasting things. I don't want Toho style games. I don't want Dark Souls. I don't want Bloodborne or anything like that. I don't find fun in games that are intentionally made to be extraordinarily difficult. So it's just not my thing. Is there any Transformers continuity that couldn't possibly get a continuation, either because all stories introduced have been satisfactorily resolved or because they've ruined to the point no one would be interested in more stories set there? I do think you could do more stories in Beast Wars, because that's a whole universe open up to you, and like everything that happened on Cybertron during the show, we didn't get to see. You got the machinations of the Tripredacus Council you could work with. Beast Machines, you definitely couldn't. It's a finite story that has a full ending, and it's a very unpopular ending at that. It's a very unpopular series at that. I do think the original Bayverse movies are ruined to the point where I don't think you can get a continuation of those. What else? There's a lot. There's a lot. We already know the Netflix ones are in that category. They were supposed to get another series. They didn't. Favorite Transformers couple? Silverbolt and Black Arachnia. I think I did a Valentine's Day video where I proclaimed, here's your top 10 couples in Transformers, and it was Black Arachnia and Silverbolt at the top of that list. It's a really fun dynamic. They told a really good story between those two. And I love how much depth it adds to Black Arachnia. Following that up, probably Cyclonus and Tailgate. I loved the will they won't they did in More Than Meets the Eye and Lost Light, and again, lots of development for both of them. See, for the month of love, out of all partners RC has had over the years, who do you think fits with her best? Honestly, it probably was for me. If we were talking G1 RC, then yeah, because she's been floating around with a lot of characters. Because hey, only girl. I thought she would have worked well with Hot Rod, and I find it weird that Hot Rod can get promoted and get dumped, which is weird to me. I don't know. That's again, I'd have to, because I haven't read all the stories. You know. I mean, that's a hard call to make. Let's see. Where do you think Transformers should go after Legacy ends? I personally hope they shift more focus toward the Unicron trilogy rather than continuing their focus on G1. I got news for you. They're going to focus on G1 because that's what sells. It consistently sells. And not just to the people at stores, retailers. Retailers want to see the name Optimus Prime and Megatron and Starscream and Bumblebee. They want to see those big character names in the case assortments that they buy. So that is why they continually go with G1 and why they continually do new versions of those characters, because that guarantees Hasbro is going to sell those cases of toys. You're always going to have G1. There's no avoiding it. Once Legacy ends, I would like to see them shift into... I'd like to see them focus more on I'd love a year that focused on Transmetals, where that was just how the toys worked for 1 year. And you have, if you had another, weaponizer style Transformer, you'd do it with beasts that are robotic, rather, that match the Transmetal aesthetic. Things like that. I think we're due for, a new round of Beast Wars, and some new characters based on that property. If Kamen Rider Outsiders gets a second season, who would you want to see added? Again, that is a question where I'm going to have to think about through 20 years worth of Heisei Kamen Riders. Don't ask me things that are going to take that much thought, please. Also, I didn't see Outsiders. Again, my head's so far away from Kamen Rider. I'm almost ready to ban those questions because I can't answer any of them. What is your personal golden age of Transformers toys? It's probably in the mid-2000s. Not only because you had Transformers Cybertron, which I do think is the best Transformers toy line we ever got. You follow that up with classics, which I thought were incredibly solid reimaginings of G1 characters. I think if they were doing reimaginings of these characters the way they were reimagined in classics, we wouldn't be getting so bored of those G1 characters so often. And then, yeah, we followed up with the '07 movie toys, which, still, they represent the movie characters, but they're much more solid figures than what we would get later on. They were being way too slavish to how they looked in the movie. The first year, the '07 stuff functioned better as toys. So that's where I feel like your best range of toys are. I do think we're in an incredibly good era of Transformer toys. We're getting some of the best toys we've ever had. But for me, the butter zone of like value, quality, originality is like in there between like 2005, 2007. Do you think that if Peter Cullen was not the voice of Optimus, do you think Optimus would be as iconic? Hard to tell. Peter Cullen's voice is iconic, and his inspiration for how Optimus Prime should sound really does carry that character. But a lot of that does just come from the stories that get told in the cartoon. It comes from the nostalgia for the toys and how good they were. It comes from his death in the original movie. All of that is, just as strong in Optimus Prime and him being a legendary character as just the fact that he is voiced by Peter Cullen. There's tons of talented voice actors in the 80s that could have also handled that role. I think we would definitely have a different view of Prime these days, but I still think he would be an iconic character, if only because Transformers as a brand stood out so much. Comment. So let's say someone in your Discord channel that doesn't support you on Patreon. What should their user do? Either leave the server, go through Patreon, and stay on Discord. Look, once you pay, you're in there. Don't worry about that. Like, if you're either grandfathered in, from back when it was public, or you pitched in on Patreon for like a month and you got the link, and then you're just there. You're fine. You're fine. Don't worry about it. I don't kick anyone out because you're not paying me. Don't think about that. It's not it's not an elite clubhouse. Don't think of it that way. Why not have Hasbro buy GoBots? Because the company that owns them is almost as big, or actually right now, most likely, bigger than Hasbro. They can't buy the property from Bandai Japan. They just can't. Okay, there's been a lot of strides toward the more queer representation in Transformers, between increasingly open view on romance, more genderqueer characters. Up to this point, a lot of the queer characters have been either new characters or retroactively canonized. What are some legacy characters that could be good candidates for this treatment with appearances in new media? Again, depends on the story you tell. You talk like retroactively canonized. I mean, RC was depicted that way. I mean, they had to retcon her origin to make her trans, and then she has a girlfriend at the end of the series. But that is still like a depiction of a G1 character. You had the same thing with Cyclonus. We already mentioned Cyclonus in this one. Cyclonus and Tailgate. I mean, I think it's important to remember that, Transformers don't view it that way. Everyone is just someone, and everyone is a potential love interest. There isn't a gay or lesbian or anything like that to that race. They don't view it in terms like that. It's humans who feel the need to dice people up. Again, depends on the story you tell. Did I ever think I would enjoy a romance story starring Decepticon Cyclonus and Autobot Tailgate? No, I did not. Did I thoroughly enjoy it? Yeah, absolutely. But again, depends on how you tell it. Let's see. Dinosaurs and prehistoric animals as combiners, potentially. Transformers 40th anniversary. That's all you wanted to say. Good work. Has anyone been deemed guilty by a Quintesson? And if not, what do you think would happen if someone was? I think the same thing would happen. Honestly, you'd probably just get like the bailiffs and the guards just shooting them down. And then just the Sharkticons are just eating their corpse at that point. Who's your favorite Transformer reviewer to watch on YouTube? I'm going to be honest, I don't really watch anybody else. I just kind of stick to doing my own thing. And that also just comes down to I don't have time. Like, I don't watch anything. The only one I do watch from time to time, and it's a Japanese toy reviewer, Wotafa, who does tokusatsu stuff, but also does the Transformers that come out in Japan every now and then. That's pretty much it. Pretty much it. I don't really watch any other English reviewers, if I'm being completely honest. And that is going to do it for this month's Q&A. It's a very long one. We're close to 2 hours. If you stuck in this long, thank you very much. I know this is a slog to get through, but I want to make sure everyone gets their questions answered. And again, quick reminder, if you want to leave a question for the next one, leave it in the comments below. Please mark it as a comment or a question so we can get through them quicker. 1 question per person. Quick answers, nothing that makes me stop and think, because that's going to take up more time. Obviously, we've taken up way too much time with these as it is. And keep it to TOS friendly, please. And other than that, yeah, feel free to ask anything you want for next time. So, thank you very much. As always, very appreciated. And as always, I will see you next time.